Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Justin Lee and I'm a third-year DPT student at Azusa Pacific University. And this is my YouTube channel. Here you'll find videos on fitness, physical therapy, and lifestyle that helps inspire self-change. I truly believe that lifting not only weights, but also each other helps empower greatness and encourage excellence. So whatever journey that you're on, I believe in you and I support you, especially if there's some lifting going on. Change people, change people. That's why we lift for change people. If any of that resonates with you, feel free to subscribe. So what we're gonna talk about in this video is how to get letters of recommendation or letters of rec for DPT school. So this is a video request from Monica or Rosa saying some schools require a lot of reference letters. How do you go about getting all the letters but not getting too overwhelmed working in different places? Great question, Monica. Do not tell me I do not listen to your comments. Alright, so I'm going to break this video down into 3 different segments. Number 1, I'm going to talk about the requirements of letters of recs from different schools. Number 2, I'm going to talk about starting to think who you're going to ask for your letters of rec. And number 3, I'm going to talk about getting the strongest recommendation. Number 1, different schools require different requirements for letters of recommendation. And just like the prerequisites and like the video I made before about how to search for prerequisites and being the most effective with your classes and listing the schools, you should do the same thing for these letters of recs. So what I would do is I would get the schools and then look them up on what's required of the letter of recs and put it in an Excel sheet. All right, I'm gonna screen share on how to look for the letters of recommendations by the specific school and show you a little bit of compare and contrast on different schools and what they're looking for. But basically all you gotta do is you gotta search your name of the school, DPT, and letters of recommendation. Okay, so I just screen shared on how to look for the letter of recommendation for Azusa Pacific, but basically you have to do the same thing for all the other schools that you're going to apply to. So for example, I have Azusa on top and University of Pittsburgh on the bottom, so I would just put University of Pittsburgh, DPT, letter of recommendation, and then just scroll down and find this. But I have a couple schools that I listed out for you, and so far I have Azusa and Pittsburgh here, and let's just go through them. So let's look at Azusa really quick. It says you need 3 letters of recommendation for this program. You need 1 letter from a registered licensed PT, and 2 must be from faculty members familiar with academic work, basically like a professor. And if we look down at the University of Pittsburgh, if you go to the recommendation, it says provide 3 letters of recommendation. 1 from a licensed PT, and 1 from a college professor, and 1 from either a second licensed PT or a supervisor employer, preferably in the healthcare related job or field. Alright, so here are some more examples. I have Emory, Northwestern, and USC from top to bottom. Emory, Northwestern, and USC are all asking for 3 letters of recommendation. Emory says 1 must be from a PT, and 1 from a faculty, and the 3rd may be a reference of your choice. Northwestern says a minimum of 3 is required. 1 must be from a PT who has supervised, and then 1 must be from a college professor, and then the last one could be anyone. And lastly, USC also requires 3 and says 1 of them needs to be from a PT, another from a professor or academic reference who has taught you in at least 1 class, and the last one could be one of your choice, but hopefully another PT or an academic reference. Alright, so as you can see, there are some similarities with the different schools, and some schools have a more specific person that they want to look out for, like Baylor wants you to have someone in the military or something like that. But it seems like the 2 most common ones are 1 from a PT and 1 from a faculty member or a professor. So your best guess is to probably ask both of those people, a PT and a professor, but always make sure you look up at whatever school you want to go to, and if you have any questions, always call to confirm if you have any specific questions for yourself. Okay, so number 2, start thinking about who you're gonna ask. And so it's probably gonna be, as I mentioned earlier, a PT, a physical therapist, and or a professor. So let's talk about the PT first. A physical therapist is probably going to be at the place where you're getting your volunteer hours at, or your observation hours, or if you're aiding, that wherever you're at, if you have a good relationship with somebody, you're probably going to ask that physical therapist from that clinic. Unless you know someone personally who is a physical therapist, I would recommend probably asking them because they know you the most. They're probably going to spend more time in the letter writing great and awesome things about you. So if you have a friend or a family member who's a PT, ask them. If not, you're probably going to have to ask the one at the clinic that you're at. And you have your professor. And this is generally probably going to be someone that you took a class from, whether it was from your major or from your prereqs. But Justin, there are so many people in the class. How could I ask them to write me a letter of recommendation out of all the other students? That's a good question. All right, so this is going to apply to your PT and your professor, so pay attention, take notes. Check this out. You should straight up ask whoever you want as a letter of recommendation from your PT and your professor and whoever else that you need to. You should straight up ask them, can you write my letter of recommendation as soon as possible? Now, why is this important? It's important to communicate that you're looking for something from them and they know that you're taking these classes, or if you talk to them, they know that you're trying to get into PT school, in which most places require a letter of recommendation. So it's not awkward and out of the blue for when you ask, can you write me a letter of recommendation? Or when you ask, will you write one for me? Them to be like, whoa, like that came out of left field. Like they know you're applying to DPT school, so that requires a letter of rec. And so the earlier you communicate that you are looking for a letter of recommendation, the more time that the professor or the PT has to look at you and to figure out like, okay, these are the good qualities that this student possesses, and I'm gonna keep track of them in my mind so that I can write that letter of rec, the strong letter of rec for them. Because if you think about it, like let's say you were to write a letter of recommendation or say so many good things about somebody that you just met or a classmate that you never talked to, and then all of a sudden they say, hey, can you write this official paper about how awesome I am to the university and sign your name off on it, like put your name and put, you know, your reputation on the line? You'll be like, bro, I have nothing to say about you because I don't even know you. And so a PT or a professor feels the same way. Like imagine you ask them to write something about you and they don't even know you. Like what are they gonna say? I mean, and if they were to conjure up something, how generic their answers would be. Oh, this student is a great worker, comes on time, does their homework, is responsible. Versus something like, this student is a phenomenal hard worker that shows excellence in everything that they do. They go above and beyond and even volunteer in the clinic after their allotted times. And they show up before and after that I've witnessed firsthand and help me, and I can see critical thinking skills that they try to understand and ask questions because they're curious about further their education. It's very obvious that the first one is the better one. Just kidding, no it's not. The second one is the better one, and that's because there's an authentic relationship that they can talk about that will definitely show up in their letter of recommendation. So if you got anything, make sure you ask them quickly and now. Okay, so we talked about the requirements of who to ask, the PT and the professor. We talked about when to ask, hopefully as soon as you can. Now, let's talk about how to get the strongest letter of recommendation and who to specifically target and strategize so that they can write you a very good one. Which brings me to point number 3, getting the strongest recommendation letter. Of course, you want to find a PT and a professor, like that's just a given category. But you want to ask somebody that you click with, first off, right? No, it's not awkward. And also someone who knows you. Someone who knows your personality, knows your work ethic, and your professional behavior. And if you don't have one of those things, then too bad, sucker. Fake it till you make it, baby. But I'm talking about like the people that you're gonna ask the letters of recs to, you wanna be on your best behavior. So AKA professionalism, AKA being your best self, AKA don't be awkward, AKA don't be a douche. Sorry if that was a little vulgar, but it's true. But straight up, after you ask them that you want them to write you a letter, you better be on your best behavior and you better portray things that they can write good things about. But honestly, you want to try to be as authentic as you can, but there is also a level of like, all right, like I gotta put up my very best self so that they can write something great for me. Because I mean, if you're a lazy person, you don't want to be lazy in the clinic, and I mean, what are they gonna say about you? But if you're a lazy person, but in the clinic, you can muster up some energy so that you can do some good work and be efficient with your time. They're gonna be like, all right, that's all I see. So they're efficient with their time. Okay, so here are some big characteristics, and if you want to write this down too, on what these letters of rec people are looking for. Work ethic, respect for others, commitment, integrity, and your ability to carry out your job. The APTA, the American Physical Therapy Association, APTA, really important. Make sure you write that name, the acronym down, because that's going to be used in all of your physical therapy life. It's a great resource, by the way. If you want to check them out, look them up, APTA. They'll show up on Google. But they have a code of ethics of how physical therapists should oblige to act and behave, and I'll post a link in the description of what that looks like. But they describe 8 principles on what physical therapists should do to carry out themselves. So things like integrity, duty, doing right for the patient, doing right as your obligation as a physical therapist, and things like that. And I'll screen share with you right now of the 8 principles of the Code of Ethics. These are just summaries, but there's also a long description of every principle and subcategories. So I would definitely check that out. These Code of Ethics are important because these are how physical therapists, it's like the standard of how they should behave and their legal obligations and things like that. And so if you behave like that as an aide or as a student, then as a person who's writing a letter of rec is gonna be like, oh, well, they're already conducting themselves in a professional manner, just like how the Code of Ethics are outlining. Wow, that is impressive. Let me write this down. So just like how PTs and professors write down notes on positive things, I hope you guys can write down notes in the comment below on some of the things that you've learned from this video. A new pre-PT video gets posted every single Monday, so make sure you come back on Mondays or subscribe. This video will be posted in the pre-PT playlist in the description. So I hope you learned something from this video and it inspired some self-change and hopefully something to cause an action of something that you can do today. Remember, change people change people. That's why we live for change, people. Have a great one, you guys.